The Sith are infamous throughout the galaxy for wielding their dark side abilities to amass power and dominance, often through ruthless and malevolent means. Their reputation as the embodiment of evil has become almost universally accepted, with their tales of treachery, betrayal, and ambition fueling this perceptive of them as villains. However, in a surprising twist of fate, there was actually one Sith who defied this dark stereotype, as he, instead of using his formidable power for conquest or destruction, this Sith actually channeled his abilities in expanding his mining operations and to study the dark side of the Force. But who was the Sith Lord and why did he choose a different path? The story of Darth Vectivus begins a long time ago during the era of the Rule of Two. Unlike most Sith who pursued power through cruelty and dominance, and often displayed these violent tendencies at a young age, Vectivus led a surprisingly normal life well into adulthood. Surrounded by his family and close-knitted group of friends he deeply cared for, he honed in many skills from these relationships and incorporated them into his business practices as the minister as a Jonex Mine 811B mining facility located in the MZX32905 system. This facility was situated within an asteroid belt near the planet of Bimili, where Vectivus established his headquarters on an asteroid that would later become known as the Home. This asteroid, rich in metal ore, was the backbone of his company's mining operation. However, unbeknownst to Vectivus or his employees, the asteroid was suffused with dark-side energies as a lingering effect of the now extinct sentient Minok-like species that had once made their inhabitants there, and over time this dark-side energy began to erode at the minds of the miners, driving them slowly insane. Those who were sensitive to the Force actually would experience different side effects, as they would suffer unexplained visions, exhibiting strange new abilities, and some of them even began to behave similarly to the long-extinct species that had once inhabited the asteroid. And the head of this operation, who was also Force sensitive, began experiencing these same effects. Fearing on what these signs could mean, he discreetly silenced all reports of these bizarre happenings within the asteroid and ceased all mining operations to keep the situation secret. During this time period, he would dedicate most of his time to experimenting within the cavern's intense darkness, examining and developing new Force abilities within the process. Eventually, however, he realized the operation was no longer lucrative, leading him to quietly mismanage the mine and shut it down entirely. And after this, he would coerce individuals to turn a blind eye to the strange events that had occurred there. After shutting down the operation, Vectivus ventured out into the galaxy in an active pursuit of a Sith. And after some time, his quest would prove to be successful as he found a Sith Lord who apprenticed him and would further his knowledge of the dark side of the Force and helped him hone in his abilities to the point of mastery. After completing his training, Vectivus, like all Sith would kill his master and would inherit the mantle of Dark Lord of the Sith as Darth Vectivus. But unlike most Sith who had succumbed to the dark side's corrupting influence, Darth Vectivus retained the same moral codes that he had upheld as a business executive, adhering to his ethical stances even as a Sith Lord. This allowed him to avoid the common pitfalls that plagued his predecessors. He rejected violence, galactic ambition, and the eradication of the Sith Jedi rivals, choosing instead to immerse himself within the galaxy and deepen his understanding of Sith lore. And eventually, Darth Vectivus would return to his mind as a fully fledged Sith Lord, and after opening it up again, he would build a mansion in the heart of the asteroid's dark side potency, where he would craft his own Sith holocron, and the Sith holocron would contain his philosophy on business practices and detailed his development of a unique dark side ability known as empowered projection. This ability allowed Vectivus to create phantoms that could control a healthy soul of a living host and use them to serve as an anchor to the physical realm. The connection between the phantom and the host was so strong that if one was destroyed or killed, the other would suffer the same fate. And Darth Vectivus became so powerful within this technique that he could summon hundreds of these phantoms with little effort. During this time, however, we don't know exactly when, he would take on his apprentice, although their identity still remains unknown to this day. And shockingly, Darth Vectivus would actually not meet the typical Sith fate that usually ended a Sith life through betrayal or violence, but instead he would actually die peacefully, surrounded by his family and friends. However, his story does not end there, as his spirit retained his power and lingered within the labyrinths of the mines beneath the home where he once lived. But while we may know a lot about Darth Vectivus and his life, his story should only be taken as a grain of salt, as it was recounted as a Sith Lady Lumia, who actually was a notorious liar who often distorted the truth for her own gain, and she would tell the story to sway Jacen Solo to the dark side. And this does leave us with the question whether Darth Vectivus was actually a good person or whether he was actually just like all the other Sith. However, we do know that Darth Vectivus did exist, and thus the true legacy of Darth Vectivus remains in mystery shrouded by the dark side. However, if this is true, this would be fascinating, as he would be one of the only few Sith who ever came close to becoming a good person. There also was Darth Maul, who later became a Force ghost, although he's a different subject that I will cover in a later date. And I realize that the Sith inherently cannot be good people, as they use the dark side and use the dark emotions to fuel themselves. However, this video is mainly just focusing on the Sith Lord who didn't use it to the extreme as other Sith would, and instead just used it to further his mining operations. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, it would mean a whole lot to me if you could like and subscribe, as it would help the channel out a ton. And if you want to watch another video, make sure to click on screen now. And with that, my fellow Star Wars nerds, may the Force be with you.